On the day of their 40th wedding anniversary, his wife asked for a divorce, and she'd already drawn up a will stating that when she died, she wanted to be buried next to her first love. The words hit Grant with the force of a physical blow. He felt a tremor start in his hands. "What did you just say?" Julia's voice was unnervingly calm. "Ethan has late-stage cancer. His only wish is to be my husband, just for once. I have to grant him that wish." Grant remembered the name. Ethan Cole, Julia's college boyfriend. "You're still thinking about him? After all this time?" "I never forgot him." When she said Ethan's name, her expression softened into a look Grant hadn't seen in years. The words were a needle piercing Grant's heart. He and Julia had been set up by mutual friends. She was pretty, with a gentle grace, and he'd fallen for her on their first date. Both their families were well established in New York, so the match was approved with a quiet efficiency. They were married within a year. It was only after the wedding that he learned about her college boyfriend. She'd told him it was all in the past, that he shouldn't worry. He believed her. In the years that followed, she was a kind and attentive wife, and he had felt like the luckiest man alive. Now he saw it was all a facade. She had never loved him. It suddenly made a horrible kind of sense. On their wedding night, after they'd made love, she had looked at him with tears in her eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry." He'd thought she was apologizing for the scratches she'd left on his back. Now he understood. She was apologizing to Ethan, guilty that she hadn't saved herself for him. Grant's eyes burned. Then what was I? Or our 40 years together? All that time, all those shared moments, and he'd never even made it into her heart. Julia just repeated herself. "Let's get a divorce." A sharp pain lanced through his chest. "I won't agree to it." His voice was ragged. "What did I do to deserve this? I worked my ass off for you, for this family. I put everything I had into raising our son, into taking care of you. And now you're just going to walk away?" His anguish didn't move her. She remained perfectly composed. "Don't worry, I'll be fair. You can have the house. We'll split the savings 50-50. As for Caleb, he's already married and on his own, so we don't have to discuss custody. If you agree, we can go to the courthouse tomorrow and file the papers." "Absolutely not." Grant's voice cracked, his eyes red with fury. "We've spent our whole lives together. You don't just get to throw that away. Forget it." He stormed into their bedroom and slammed the door. He sat by the window, the ache in his chest unbearable, sweet memories turning to poison in his mind. So love could be faked. Why lie to him? And why for 40 years? If you're going to lie, why not lie for a lifetime instead of telling him the cruel truth when he was too old to start over? A soft knock came at the door. "Dad, dinner's ready. It's going to get cold." It was his son, Caleb. The name was another stab of pain. Julia had chosen it. She'd said she just liked the sound of it, that it felt classic. He hadn't thought twice about it. But now, he could see it with sickening clarity. Ethan. She named their son Caleb Ethan Miller. It was a tribute, a secret she'd kept all this time. A way to think of Ethan every time she said their son's name. "Dad, are you in there?" Caleb called again. Grant took a deep, shaky breath and opened the door. Caleb saw his father's red-rimmed eyes. "Dad, what's wrong? Your eyes are all bloodshot." Not wanting to worry him, Grant forced a smile. "It's nothing. Just watching a sad movie. Got me all worked up." Caleb chuckled. "You've always been a softy, Dad. Let me get you a cold pack for the swelling." "No need," Grant said, waving him off. "Let's just eat." His daughter-in-law had taken the kids to visit her parents for the holiday weekend, so Caleb had stayed to keep them company. The three of them sat around the dinner table. Caleb, oblivious, chattered on about his work and his own little family. Grant, who had always cherished these conversations, answered on autopilot, trying to keep the mood light. Half an hour in, Julia put down her fork. "We need to talk about the divorce," she said, her voice flat. The fragile warmth in the room shattered. Grant's smile froze. "Caleb is here. Can you not ruin the evening?" "Caleb is a grown man, not a child," Julia insisted. "I'm serious about this, Grant. You need to stop being so stubborn." "Divorce? What divorce?" Caleb looked from one parent to the other, completely lost. Julia explained it to him. "Do you remember your Uncle Ethan? He was my first love. He was recently diagnosed with terminal cancer. He doesn't have much time left. He never married because of me, and his only wish is to spend his last days as my husband." As she spoke, her eyes welled with tears. Grant's stomach soured. In 40 years of marriage, Julia had never shed a single tear for him. "But what about Dad?" Caleb asked, looking helplessly at Grant. Grant took a breath, his voice hard as stone. "You're dreaming. You think you can just toss me aside now that I'm old? Not a chance in hell." Julia opened her mouth to argue, but Grant pushed his chair back, leaving his plate untouched. He walked out of the apartment and into the night. The sky was bruised with dark clouds. A flash of lightning, a roll of thunder, and the heavens opened up in a torrential downpour. He stood in the rain, unwilling to let go, unwilling to give up. But some things couldn't be held on to, no matter how tightly you gripped. Julia left anyway. She bought a plane ticket to Denver and left him a letter. She was going to stay with Ethan until the end. She had no plans to return. She would remain in Denver to tend to Ethan's grave. Grant's hand crumpled the letter, his eyes squeezed shut against the pain. She was gone. She didn't want him, didn't want their son. She had abandoned them both. After the initial agony subsided, a grim resolve took its place. He would go to Denver and get her back. He wasn't about to hand his wife over to another man. She was his wife until the day she died. He had just finished packing when he got the call. Caleb had been in a minor car accident and was in the hospital. He had to put his trip on hold until his son was okay. In the hospital room, Caleb looked at his father's haggard face, hesitating. Finally, he couldn't hold it in. "Dad, are you really going to Denver to find Mom?" Grant nodded. "As soon as you're discharged. But you get so carsick, and you hate flying," Caleb said, his voice laced with concern. "Denver's a long way from here. It'll be too hard on you. Maybe you should just wait. Mom's probably just emotional right now. Once Ethan passes away, she'll come back." Just as he finished speaking, a news anchor's voice cut through the room's quiet hum. "We interrupt this program with breaking news. A magnitude 6.0 earthquake has just struck the Denver metropolitan area." Grant's head snapped toward the television, his eyes locked on the screen. Panic seized him. "Your mother is in Denver. What if she's hurt? I have to go. I have to go now." Caleb, stunned by the news, immediately checked himself out of the hospital to go with his father. 8 hours later, they arrived. Caleb called Julia and found out she was at a local hospital. They rushed over. Walking into the room, Grant froze. Julia was sitting by Ethan Cole's bedside, holding both of his hands, her gaze fixed on him with a look of profound, gentle love that Grant had never seen directed at himself. Julia was always gentle, but this was different. This was adoration. Grant felt rooted to the spot, a bitter taste in his mouth. So this was what had been missing for all those decades. Julia's real love. "You're here," she said, her head turning briefly toward them before her eyes drifted back to Ethan. Grant was pale and exhausted. The long flight and the frantic cab ride had left him feeling sick. But she didn't ask how he was. She barely spared him a glance. Was this the difference between being loved and not being loved? A bitter wave washed over him, his heart feeling like it was being twisted in a vice. The earthquake wasn't that bad, and it wasn't centered in this area, Julia said, her eyes still on the man in the bed. "You didn't have to come. You should rest tonight and fly back tomorrow." Even knowing her heart was elsewhere, Grant couldn't stop himself. "You look thin." The man in the bed finally spoke, his voice weak. "She's been taking care of me. It's been hard on her. Julia, you've worked so hard." Julia squeezed his hand. "Ethan, don't feel pressured. I'd do anything for you. It's a privilege to be here." Their hands were clasped tightly together, looking for all the world like a devoted, elderly couple. Grant, the legal husband, felt like a complete stranger. He swallowed the bitterness in his throat. "Ethan, can we talk? Alone?" Before Ethan could answer, Julia's expression hardened. She looked at Grant with suspicion, as if he were a threat. "Divorcing you is my idea. It has nothing to do with Ethan. Don't you dare harass him." So that's what she thought of him. Ethan whispered, "Julia, don't say that. Why don't you two step out for a minute? I'll have a chat with him." But Julia was still hesitant. Ethan gave her a reassuring look, and only then did she reluctantly leave the room. Once they were alone, Ethan smiled faintly at Grant. "You know, I never asked Julia to come to Denver. I told her no several times, but she's just so stubborn." He sighed. "And I never asked her to divorce you. I was just joking one day, saying my dying wish was to be her husband. I can't believe she actually took me seriously." He looked at Grant with feigned sincerity. "I'm so sorry. I truly never thought things would turn out this way. You're not mad at me, are you?" Every word of apology was a thinly veiled taunt, twisting the knife in Grant's gut. Grant ignored the provocation. "If that's true, then you should tell Julia you don't want to marry her." "Why would I not want to marry her?" Ethan's smile widened. "Do you know, she's the only woman I've ever wanted to marry." He began to recount their story. "We met in college. It was love at first sight. We dated for 4 years, and after graduation, she couldn't wait to marry me. She took me to New York to meet her parents. But her parents were snobs, didn't want a son-in-law who wasn't from old New York money. Her mother threatened to kill herself. They broke us up, and I went back home to Denver. Do you have any idea how much pain I was in on the day she married you? We were the ones in love, and we were torn apart. Who could possibly understand my heartbreak?" He looked at Grant. "You're a man. You can understand, can't you?" Grant felt a surge of his own injustice. "I'm not the one who broke you up. What did I do wrong?" Even without him, Julia would have been set up with someone else. Ethan's story was tragic, but Grant had been deceived for a lifetime. How was he any better off? How could you destroy my family? Grant demanded. I'm so sorry. Ethan started to cry. Hearing the sobs, Julia burst back into the room. She wrapped her arms around Ethan, comforting him, then shot Grant a look of pure accusation. She said nothing, but her eyes screamed. How could you? Grant's heart ached again. You should leave, Julia said, her voice stripped of all its usual warmth. Grant opened his mouth to explain, but the words wouldn't come. What was there to say? Caleb appeared at the door. Dad, I booked a hotel. You look exhausted. Let's go get some rest. Grant knew there was nothing he could do here but watch his wife dote on another man. He nodded and followed his son out. At the hotel, he lay on the bed, replaying the scene in the hospital room. Julia's heart was gone. What was the point of stubbornly refusing a divorce? Even if Ethan died, she planned to stay in Denver to tend his grave. That marriage certificate couldn't even keep her by his side. He thought for a long time. Finally, he decided to let go. For Julia's sake, and for his own. That evening, he went back to the hospital and met with Julia alone. She looked impatient. What is it? Say it quickly. Ethan gets upset when he wakes up, and I'm not here. Grant managed a bitter smile. This won't take long. I came to tell you I agree to the divorce. Julia froze for a second. Are you serious? I am, Grant said quietly. I'll head back to New York in a few days. We can get the papers finalized then. Without a moment's hesitation, Julia said, Fine. I'll hold you to that. After making the decision, Grant felt a strange sense of relief. But the weight of 40 years was not so easily shed, and a deep depression settled over him. He decided to stay in Denver for a few more days, see some sights, and try to clear his head. When Caleb heard he'd agreed to the divorce, he offered a few words of concern but didn't object in the slightest. Grant, lost in his own misery, didn't notice the oddness of it. Caleb offered to join him, but Grant wanted to be alone. He signed up for a senior bus tour. He'd always seen pictures of Yellowstone on TV and dreamed of going, but his severe motion sickness had always stopped him. This time, he was finally going to see it. Yellowstone in the summer was breathtaking. The forests were lush and green, the mountains majestic. The vibrant, gem-like colors of the hot springs and pools were almost unreal, a landscape painted in impossibly vivid hues. Standing there, Grant felt like he had stepped into a masterpiece. He snapped several photos before the tour guide herded them to the next spot. Along the way, he chatted with the other retirees, admiring the scenery. The heavy gloom in his heart began to lift. After 3 days, he was ready to head back to New York. He didn't tell anyone. As the boarding announcement for his flight echoed through the airport, his phone rang. It was Julia. What else do you want? He asked, his voice flat. Grant, where are you? You need to come to the hospital. Right now. I'm at the airport. I'm about to fly back to New York. Please just come. It's incredibly important. She hung up before he could respond. He had never heard her use the word please with such urgency. Worried it might be a real emergency, he sighed and decided to go back to the hospital. He found her in Ethan's room. She looked at him with a complicated expression. What is it? Just say it. Julia hesitated, then finally spoke. Ethan never married because of me. He has no children, his parents are gone, and he has no siblings. I'm worried that after I'm gone, there will be no one left to even visit his grave. She paused, then delivered the final blow. While we're all here, I want to have Caleb legally adopted by him. That way, after I die, someone will be there to tend to his grave, to remember him. Grant stared at her, first in stunned disbelief, then in a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. Julia, do you have any idea what you're saying? Caleb is my son, and you want him to call Ethan Cole his father? You've gone too far. She wanted a divorce to be with her old flame. He had painfully agreed. Now she wanted to steal his son, too. How could she even propose something so monstrous? I will never agree. Grant roared, his voice trembling with fury and grief. No one is taking my son from me. Julia seemed to have expected this reaction. Her expression remained unchanged. Grant, you've always been a kind man. Can you really bear to see Ethan die alone and forgotten, with no descendant to even place a flower on his grave? Caleb is our only child, but even after the adoption, he'll still be your biological son. The bloodline continues. I just want Ethan to have a son's name on his headstone. Caleb would just have a second father. Grant thought he might actually explode. To make matters worse, Ethan was lying in bed with a look of pained reluctance, as if he were an unwilling participant in this farce. The man who had stolen his wife's heart now wanted his son to call him father. It was the most shameless thing he had ever heard. Grant took a deep breath, tried to control the inferno in his chest. Julia, he said, his voice raw, we were married for 40 years. Even if there was no love, wasn't there at least some affection? How can you say something so despicable? Caleb isn't just my only child. He's the son I raised, the son I stayed up with all night when he was sick. He's the most precious thing in my life. And you want to just rip him away from me? Have you no conscience? Don't say another word. My son will only ever have one father. He turned and stalked out. As he neared the hospital exit, he stopped dead in his tracks. He had to take Caleb with him. He couldn't leave his son here. He walked back. The door to the room was slightly ajar, and he heard voices from within. Mom, Dad won't agree to let me be Uncle Ethan's son. What are we going to do? It was Caleb, sighing. Dad is being so unreasonable. It's such a small thing to ask. Grant felt as if he'd been struck by lightning. He stood frozen, unable to believe his ears. He burst into the room, his control completely gone. Caleb jumped to his feet, startled. Grant stared at his son, his voice a furious roar. You want to call Ethan Cole your father, don't you? Caleb stammered, Dad. Grant, I'm telling you right now. Julia's voice cut in, hard as steel. Caleb will be adopted by Ethan. This is what you owe him. Grant laughed, a harsh, broken sound. He pointed at himself. What I owe him? What could I possibly owe him? Do you remember that month I was on a work assignment in Denver? I'll be honest with you. I spent that entire month with Ethan. We couldn't help ourselves. We made love. A month later, I was pregnant. But he didn't want to hurt you, didn't want to destroy our marriage. He convinced me to get an abortion. If it weren't for your feelings, do you think Ethan wouldn't have a son of his own? You owe him a child, Grant, and you're going to pay him back. The world spun. An affair. His wife had cheated on him years ago. She had been with her old flame all along, and he'd been a fool, deceived for 40 years. Caleb chimed in, his voice laced with accusation. Yeah, Dad. Uncle Ethan's child is gone because of you. You should compensate him. It's only right. Besides, I'm just being adopted on paper. Our blood connection won't be broken. Why are you being so petty about it? Looking at his son's reproachful face, Grant felt the air leave his lungs. When Caleb was a little boy, he'd had a terrible case of chickenpox. Even Julia had been afraid to get close to him, had nearly given up on him. It was Grant who had stayed by his side, day and night, refusing to leave until the fever broke, pulling him back from the brink. And now, in his son's eyes, he was just a petty old man. Dad, if you don't agree, Caleb threatened, I'll file a petition in court to sever our legal ties. I'll disown you. In that instant, Grant's heart felt like it was encased in ice. A bone-deep cold spread through his entire body. He raised a trembling hand, pointing at Caleb. You ungrateful. The words caught in his throat. The last bit of air escaped him, and his body went rigid before falling backward. Grant! Dad, don't scare me. The voices faded as the world went black. When he woke up, he was 40 years in the past. On the day he was supposed to marry Julia, he was standing on the altar in a tuxedo, holding Julia's hand. The officiant's voice was booming through the hall, reciting the vows. They were at the final part of the ceremony. Grant Miller, do you take Julia Vance to be your lawfully wedded wife? To have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer? Before the officiant could finish, Grant cut him off. I don't. A shocked silence fell over the room. Julia looked at him, her eyes wide with surprise. Grant's father, David, frowned from the front row. Grant's father, David, frowned from the front row. Grant, what are you talking about? Grant's voice was firm and clear. Dad, I'm not kidding. I'm serious. Julia's mother rushed to his side, grabbing his hand and speaking in a harsh whisper. Grant, did we do something wrong? Did Julia upset you? Whatever it is, we can solve it privately. The room is full of guests. Don't make a scene. Grant pulled his hand away. He turned to face the crowd, meeting their stunned and curious gazes. Friends, family, I am so sorry to have wasted your time today. He bowed deeply. The wedding is off. He then pulled the ring from his finger and let it drop to the floor. Please, enjoy the reception on us. With that, he jumped off the stage and ran out of the hotel ballroom without a backward glance. Grant, come back here, his father yelled, starting to follow, but Julia's mother caught his arm. David, what is the meaning of this? How can you just call off the wedding like this? She demanded, furious. David was just as confused, but he had to placate her. Grant has always been a bit impulsive. Let me figure out what's going on, and I promise I will come to your home personally to apologize. He then hurried out after his son. The wedding ended in chaos. The guests murmured amongst themselves. Julia's mother was seething. How could he just run out like that? In front of everyone. The humiliation. Compared to her mother's fury, Julia was remarkably calm. Mom, if he doesn't want to marry me, it's fine. It's not like he's the only man in the world. The wedding is off. So be it. That's right. Her mother fumed. We'll find you someone much better. Grant went home, changed out of the tuxedo, and threw it in the trash. He looked out the window at the clear blue sky and smiled for what felt like the first time in an eternity. A second chance. He would have nothing to do with Julia Vance this time. This life was for him. A few minutes later, his father returned. He saw Grant sitting on the sofa, calmly eating an apple, and his anger flared. "Grant, why did you run out of your own wedding? Did Julia do something to upset you?" Grant's mother had passed away when he was young, and he and his father had always been close. Even now, furious as he was, David's tone was more concerned than accusatory. Grant patted the sofa cushion next to him. "Dad, sit down." He poured his father a glass of water before speaking. "Julia didn't do anything to upset me, but I don't think she's the right person for me." "Why not?" Grant thought for a moment. "Did you know she has a college boyfriend she was with for 4 years? He's from Denver. Her parents broke them up, but she's never gotten over him. I don't want to marry a woman who has another man in her heart." He looked his father in the eye. "You wouldn't want me to be unhappy for the rest of my life, would you?" David was stunned. He hadn't known. He mulled it over. A love story broken up by family. Those are the kinds of feelings that could linger for a lifetime. "If that's the case," David said, his voice now serious, "then I support your decision. We won't marry into that family. Don't you worry about the Vances. I'll take care of it." All his life, David had been his shield. It was true in his past life, and it was true now. A warmth spread through Grant's chest. "Dad, thank you for understanding. Don't thank me. You're my son. I'd do anything to make sure you're happy." David patted his shoulder, his face full of love. Since the decision was made, David had to pay a visit to the Vance family. Grant offered to go with him, but his father refused, taking a couple of uncles with him instead. Calling it off just like that. "Do you Millers have any respect for the Vance family at all?" Julia's mother raged. Though they had no intention of going through with the marriage now, being publicly rejected was a huge embarrassment. The Millers were clearly in the wrong, so David was nothing but apologetic. He not only told them to keep the expensive engagement gifts, but also brought a generous apology gift. His attitude was sincere. But Julia's mother was relentless. Who would ever want to marry into a family that goes back on its word? And that Grant, I thought he was a decent young man, but I was blind. Now my Julia's reputation is ruined. Because of him, she shrieked. Missing out on my Julia is his loss. Let's see how he feels when he ends up with someone who's not half the woman she is. No taste, no vision. He'd better not come crawling back, because my Julia doesn't take sloppy seconds. The words were harsh, but David and the uncles endured it, knowing they were at fault. Finally, Julia's mother was done. "Now, get out. I can't stand the sight of you dishonest people." The Millers left, their faces grim. As they reached the street, David noticed two figures standing under a streetlight a short distance away. A man and a woman, locked in a passionate kiss. "Hey, look, isn't that Julia?" David asked. "She's still in her wedding dress." "It's her," one of the uncles confirmed. "And who's that guy she's kissing?" "She was supposed to be getting married today, and tonight she's with another man?" the other uncle said, indignant. David's face darkened. His son was right. Julia was no good. That man must be the college boyfriend. They'd clearly never broken up. If Grant had married her, there was no telling what she would have done. He marched furiously toward the couple. Before they could react, he raised his phone and snapped several pictures. Click, click. Shameless, David spat. "Thank God my son didn't marry you. He would have been the biggest fool in New York." Julia quickly shielded Ethan behind her, her voice sharp. "Mr. Miller, that's an ugly thing to say. Grant and I are not married. Who I'm with is my own business." David sneered. "With another man in your heart, and you still had the nerve to try and marry my son. Your family is disgusting. I'm glad Grant was smart enough to see through you. You don't deserve him." Remembering the humiliation he'd just endured inside their house, David's anger surged anew. He turned and marched right back to the Vances front door. Seeing him return, Julia's mother frowned. "What do you want now?" The apology gifts were still sitting in the living room. David gave his uncles a look, and they immediately understood, picking up the boxes. "What do you think you're doing?" Julia's mother shrieked. "Are you people so poor you have to take back an apology gift?" "Because your family doesn't deserve an apology from mine," David said, shoving his phone in her face. "Isn't that your daughter's ex-boyfriend? She was at the altar with my son today, and tonight she's all over this guy. They obviously never broke up. If Grant hadn't found out about their affair and called it off, who knows how you people would have betrayed him. Your family can't even clean up its own mess, and you have the audacity to judge my son? Disgraceful." Julia's mother's face turned green when she saw the photos. She had no idea Julia was still seeing Ethan Cole. "Oomph. My daughter deserves better anyway. Your son can go to hell," she spat, her face tight with shame. David shot her one last look of contempt and walked out, head held high. Back home, He recounted the entire story to Grant, fuming for a solid 15 minutes. Grant listened, his expression neutral. It no longer bothered him. "Dad, don't be so angry. It's not good for your health," Grant said, handing him a glass of water. David took a sip, still incensed, but then his anger turned to self-reproach. "It's all my fault. I didn't vet her properly." "It's not your fault," Grant said. "They hid it well. No one could have known. He himself had been fooled for 40 years. "Grant, I promise you, next time I'll be much more careful," David said seriously. Grant shook his head. "Dad, I'm not thinking about marriage right now. I want to go back to school. I'm going to apply for a master's program." In his previous life, he'd become a student advisor at his university right after graduation, then married Julia. The job wasn't challenging, and he'd wanted more. He'd actually been accepted into a graduate program, but then Caleb was born. Between a demanding newborn and Julia's insistence, he had given up his spot and quit his job to become a stay-at-home dad. It was one of his biggest regrets. This time, there would be no regrets. David was immediately supportive. "Of course, if you want to study, you study." The canceled wedding felt like a brief, chaotic interruption. Afterward, Grant's life moved forward. He threw himself into his work and his studies. Today, for the first time in 40 years, he was stepping back onto the university campus. He looked at the familiar yet strange buildings, at the vibrant, energetic faces of the students, and his eyes suddenly grew misty. Finally, his life was back on track. "Mr. Miller." He turned to see a young female student, one of his advisees, though after 2 lifetimes, he couldn't recall her name. She walked up to him, smiling brightly. "Mr. Miller, congratulations on your wedding." Grant glanced at the ID card hanging from her neck. Ashley Davis. He remembered her now. She was the class president for one of his groups. In his last life, she and a few other students had come to visit him after Caleb was born. It felt strangely good to see her again. He smiled. "Actually, I didn't get married. But thanks anyway." "Oh." Ashley looked confused. Grant didn't elaborate. "Finals are coming up. How's the studying going?" "It's going okay," she said, then hesitated. "Mr. Miller, I was wondering if you could do me a favor." "What is it?" "My brother just got his SAT scores back. He cleared the state university cutoff by about 100 points, and we're trying to figure out which schools to apply to. I was hoping you could give us some advice." Grant was surprised. College applications were a huge deal. Why ask him? "You should probably ask a professional counselor. I don't know that much about it." "Mr. Miller, I trust your judgment," Ashley pleaded. "My parents didn't go to college, and I basically just threw a dart at a map when I applied. I only got in here off the wait list. I really want my brother to have a better shot." Grant was hesitant. This was a big responsibility. But looking at her earnest face, he relented. "All right, I'll help." "Thank you, Mr. Miller." Ashley beamed. That weekend, Grant went with Ashley to her family's home in Queens, not far from campus. Her parents knew he was coming and had cleaned the house spotless. As soon as he walked in, Mrs. Davis greeted him with a huge smile. "Mr. Miller, welcome, welcome." She ushered him to the sofa. Ashley brought him hot tea, and the coffee table was laden with fruit and snacks. "Mr. Miller, have some strawberries. They're very sweet," a shy-looking boy said, pushing a bowl of washed strawberries toward him. This must be Ashley's brother. Grant was touched by their warmth. "Thank you," he said with a genuine smile. After some pleasantries, they got down to business. Grant took the task seriously, spending the entire day researching programs, calling some old family friends for advice, and helping the boy map out a list of target, reach, and safety schools. By the time they were done, it was getting late. Grant prepared to leave. "Mr. Miller, you've helped us so much. You have to stay for dinner," Mrs. Davis insisted. It was hard to refuse such hospitality, so Grant stayed. Mr. and Mrs. Davis went into the kitchen to cook, while Ashley and her brother sat with him in the living room, watching TV. A little while later, the front door opened, and a tall, striking woman walked in. Grant looked up, his eyes meeting the woman's. They held each other's gaze for a second. "Chloe, you're home," Ashley called out cheerfully. So this was the eldest daughter. Grant remembered Ashley telling him she had an older sister who had joined the Army. She'd had the grades for a top university, but their mother got seriously ill, and the family couldn't afford it. She enlisted to help with the finances. She had just finished her service this year and was starting her own business. "Chloe, this is Mr. Miller," Ashley said, making the introduction. "Hi, I'm Chloe Davis." Grant stood up and shook her hand. "Grant Miller, a pleasure. Thank you for helping my brother with his college applications," she said, her voice calm and steady. Grant smiled. "Your family has thanked me so many times today my ears are ringing. So you're welcome." His easygoing manner brought a slight curve to her lips. "Still, we appreciate it." She pulled a small, blue box from her pocket. "A small token of our gratitude." I hope you like it. Grant was surprised and tried to refuse. Oh no, you really don't have to. Mr. Miller, just take it. It's from all of us, Ashley said, pressing the gift into his hand with a grin. Unable to refuse, Grant accepted it. He opened the box to find a fountain pen from a well-known, expensive brand. It had to be worth at least a few $100s. This is too much, Grant said, trying to give it back. Chloe didn't give him the chance. Your guidance is worth far more than a pen, Mr. Miller. Please, you have to accept it. Otherwise, we'll feel terrible. Put that way, Grant had no choice. Well, thank you then. I love it. After dinner, it was late and the sky was dark. Grant said his goodbyes, and Chloe offered to walk him out. They weren't well acquainted, and the walk to the main road was mostly silent. At the corner, Grant stopped. This is fine. You should head back. The bus stop was just around the bend, well lit and safe. Chloe stood with her hands in her pockets and nodded. All right, get home safe. I will. He turned and walked toward the bus stop. The bus pulled up almost immediately. Chloe watched him get on before turning to go home. Back at his own place, Grant's father, David, had washed some fruit and was waiting for him to watch TV. Dad, you go ahead. I haven't finished my review for today. I need to get back to it. He'd spent the whole day at the Davis house and was behind on his study schedule. The entrance exam isn't for months, David said. A smart kid like you doesn't need to work this hard. Grant shook his head. I can't get complacent. Although he'd been accepted in his past life, that was 40 years ago. He'd forgotten most of it and had to relearn everything from scratch. Time was tight. There was no room for slacking. I'm going to my room, Dad. He closed the door and dove back in his books, studying for 3 or 4 hours straight. When he finally looked up, the clock showed it was past midnight. A knock came at the door. Grant, time for bed. You can study more tomorrow. He was ready for a break. Okay, Dad, going to bed now. He tidied his desk, washed up, and climbed into bed. Ever since calling off the wedding, his life had found a quiet, busy rhythm. His days were split between his job at the university and intense studying for the graduate school entrance exam in December. A month flew by. It was a Friday, and he decided to stop by the grocery store to pick up ingredients for hot pot with his father. He was carefully selecting fresh shrimp when he heard a voice behind him. Grant, is that you? He turned to see Ethan Cole, smiling broadly. It really is you. What a coincidence. Ethan walked toward him, acting as if they were old friends. Did you know Julia and I are getting married next week? His tone was smug. I should really thank you. If you hadn't run out on her, I'm not sure we ever would have gotten together. Grant had never been close with Ethan in either life. He felt nothing, turning his attention back to the shrimp. Oh, really? Good to know. His lack of reaction seemed to bother Ethan. He had always been jealous of Grant, jealous of his New York roots, which had made it so easy for him to marry Julia while Ethan was forced to leave. He needed to rub his victory in Grant's face. Don't you want to know why her parents finally agreed to let us marry? He pressed, not waiting for an answer. Because Julia loves me so much. She argued with him for weeks, even went on a hunger strike. They only have one daughter. They couldn't stand to see her hurt herself. So they caved. Ethan's face was glowing with happiness. She just loves me so much. The shrimp were selected. Grant took them to the counter to be weighed, then moved on to the pork ribs for the soup he planned to make tomorrow. Being ignored, Ethan's expression soured. He followed Grant like a shadow. Why won't you say anything? Is it because you're upset that she loves me so much? You called it off because you knew I was the one she truly loved, didn't you? You're really annoying, Grant said finally, looking at him. Are you that desperate for attention? Let me tell you something. I don't collect trash. But since you seem to like it so much, you should hold on to it. Maybe build a little shrine. The veiled insult turned Ethan's face an ugly shade of green. To call Julia trash was to call him a garbage collector. That's completely out of line. How can you talk like that? Ethan hissed. Grant took his now-weighed shrimp and ribs from the butcher. He glanced at Ethan out of the corner of his eye. Live your life, and I'll live mine. Stay out of my way. He wanted nothing to do with either of them in this life. He turned to leave. Ethan grabbed his arm, refusing to let go. You're just pretending you don't care. You called it off because you knew she only loved me. If you really don't care, then you have to come to our wedding next week. You wish us well in person, then I'll believe you. He shoved a wedding invitation into Grant's pocket, gave him no chance to refuse, and stalked off. Grant stood there baffled. He suddenly understood why Julia loved Ethan. They were both insane. He wanted nothing to do with them, yet they stuck to him like glue. It was infuriating. Suppressing the urge to curse, Grant went to the checkout counter. After leaving the supermarket, he started walking toward the bus stop. He'd only gone a few steps when a sleek, black motorcycle pulled up in front of him. The rider flipped up the helmet's visor, revealing a striking, clear-featured face. It was Chloe Davis. Heading home? I can give you a lift, she said, her pretty eyes on him. Grant was surprised to see her. He shook his head. Thanks, but I could just take the bus. There's a traffic jam up ahead, Chloe said. The bus won't be coming through for a while. Oh, is that so? Grant hesitated. Chloe grinned. What? Afraid my driving's so bad I'll dump you in a ditch. Don't worry, I promise to keep you upright. Her playful tone made him laugh. That's not what I was thinking. Then get on. She handed him a helmet. Grant stopped protesting and climbed onto the back of her motorcycle. They didn't know each other that well, and she was a woman, so he felt awkward about putting his arms around her waist. Instead, he gripped her shoulders, trying to keep a respectful distance. Hold on, she said. The bike shot forward with a roar. The inertia sent Grant lurching forward, his chest pressing firmly against her back. Feeling the solid wall of his chest, Chloe's ears turned a faint shade of red. The motorcycle weaved through traffic, and soon they were pulling up in front of Grant's apartment building. Thanks for the ride, Grant said with a smile. He took his groceries and was about to head inside when Chloe spoke up. I almost forgot to tell you the good news. My brother got into his first choice school. Grant's eyes lit up. Really? That's fantastic. Congratulations. My whole family is so grateful for your help. If you're free tomorrow, we'd like to have you over for dinner. Grant waved his hand. You already gave me a gift. You don't need to treat me to dinner. My dad specifically told me I had to invite you. He said if I couldn't get you to come, I wasn't allowed back in the house, Chloe said, putting on a pitiful expression. Mr. Miller, please say you'll come. Grant's heart softened. All right then. A smile touched Chloe's lips. Great. I'll pick you up tomorrow. Grant went inside. Dad, we're having hot pot tonight, he called, heading for the kitchen. His father called out. Grant, who were you talking to just now? He'd seen the scene from the window. As a parent, his mind naturally started racing. Was that a friend or a new girlfriend? Is she local? Where does she live? What does she do for work? How many siblings does she have? The barrage of questions made Grant roll his eyes. Dad, she's just a friend. You remember that student I helped with her brother's college applications last month? That's her older sister, Chloe Davis. The traffic was bad, so she gave me a ride home. David looked a little disappointed. Just a friend, huh? She seems like a nice girl. Pretty too. And local. Grant laughed. Dad, stop worrying about my love life. I'm not looking to get married right now. Well, studying is important, but so is getting married, David said with a grin. You focus on your exams. I'll keep an eye out for you. David only had one son. Of course he was going to worry. Grant decided to let it go. His dad could look all he wanted. As long as Grant wasn't interested, David would never force him. As they ate, Grant casually mentioned Ethan's invitation to the wedding. David immediately flared up. The nerve of that guy. Shameless. Dad, calm down. I'm not going, Grant said, try to placate him. He wasn't a masochist. Good. Don't go, David huffed. Seeing people like that just puts you in a bad mood. Grant put some vegetables in his father's bowl. Okay, let's not talk about them. Let's just eat. David couldn't help but mutter, you just watch. That Ethan guy doesn't have an honest face. Julia is blind from marrying him. She'll regret it. Whether she regrets it or not has nothing to do with us anymore, Grant said. He truly didn't care. David nodded emphatically. You're right. It's got nothing to do with us. My Grant is going to have a much better, happier life than she ever will. Grant smiled gently, a warmth spreading through him. In his past life, his father had died young, and he hadn't even been there to say goodbye. To be able to live with him again like this, it felt like a precious gift. David ladled a bowl of steaming soup and was about to drink it. Dad, wait for it to cool down, Grant said quickly. It's fine, David waved it off. Grant's tone became serious. No, you have to wait until it's not scalding. His father had always loved eating and drinking things piping hot. Over time, it led to esophageal cancer, which took him far too early. This time, Grant was going to watch over him. If you don't listen, I'm going to get upset, Grant said, putting on a stern face. David relented. All right, I'll wait. Grant's expression softened. Eating food that's too hot can cause cancer. From now on, whether it's soup, water, or anything else, you have to wait until it's a safe temperature. Understand? David always listened to his son. Okay, whatever you say, no more hot stuff for me. With his father's promise, Grant's smile returned. At 3 o'clock the next afternoon, Chloe pulled up on her motorcycle in front of Grant's building. After telling his dad, Grant went downstairs. He tapped her on the shoulder. You're here early. Chloe turned to him, a natural smile on her face. Not really. She handed him a helmet. Grant put it on and expertly settled onto the seat behind her. He had intended to hold her shoulders again. You can put your arms around my waist, she said. It's been a long ride to my place, and one stretch of road is pretty bumpy. It's safer. Safety first. Grant didn't hesitate this time, wrapping his arms around her waist. Chloe's lips curved into a smile. Hold on tight. Here we go. The motorcycle sped off. The summer wind rushed past them, surprisingly cool and refreshing. Grant felt the breeze on his face, a symbol of the freedom of his new life, and his mood soared. I hear you're preparing for your grad school exams? Chloe's clear voice carried over the wind. Yeah, studying for them now, he replied. What's your major? English is my main focus, but I also know some other languages like Spanish, Arabic, and Finnish. The conversation opened up, and they began to chat like old friends. Wow, so many languages. That's amazing, Chloe said. She sounded a little embarrassed when she added, I was terrible with languages. In high school, my English grades were barely passing. That's because your talents lie elsewhere, Grant said. Ashley told me you used to get near-perfect scores in math. That's incredible. It was all right, Chloe said modestly. I was just more interested in it, so I spent more time on it. You're starting a business now, right? What do you do? Grant asked casually. I'm in foreign trade, Chloe said. Surprising, right? Someone with terrible English doing foreign trade. Grant laughed. Not at all. You don't need a huge vocabulary, just enough to get by. They chatted back and forth, the time flying by as they grew more comfortable with each other. They even exchanged phone numbers. When they arrived, the motorcycle came to a smooth stop. Grant followed Chloe upstairs, where her family greeted him with the same warmth as before, treating him to a huge, delicious meal. After dinner, just like last time, Chloe walked him out. She offered to drive him home, but Grant declined. It's getting late. You don't need to make an extra trip. All right, be careful on your way home. I will. The bus arrived right on cue. He turned and got on. Chloe watched him go before heading home. Chloe, you back already? Why didn't you drive Mr. Miller home? Her mother asked, slightly chiding. He said it was too late and didn't want me going out of my way. The bus was right there, so he took it, Chloe explained. Her mother smiled. Mr. Miller is such a handsome and kind man. I wonder if he has a girlfriend. Whoever marries him will be very lucky. Ashley's voice floated out from the bathroom. He had a fiancée and even took leave for the wedding, but for some reason, they broke up. So he's single now. Hearing this, Chloe's lips curved upwards, but they fell just as quickly. Ashley continued, Mr. Miller has really high standards, though. A lot of people have a crush on him. Several female professors at the university, and even some students, are chasing him. They're all great catches, but he's not interested in any of them. Chloe's smile vanished completely. Forget it, she thought. It's just a fantasy. It was a beautiful, sunny day. Grant hadn't expected to run into Julia at the university. He tried to turn and walk out of the cafeteria before she saw him. Grant! She called his name, quickly walking over to him. Grant clutched the books in his arms, his tone indifferent. Can I help you? Julia pushed her glasses up her nose, looking at him. Can we talk some more private? Whatever you have to say, you can say it here, Grant said. You're a married woman now. I'd rather not start any rumors. His attitude was cold, as if he were speaking to a stranger. Grant, I've been meaning to apologize to you, Julia said. It was my fault. I shouldn't have been with you when I hadn't forgotten Ethan. I'm truly sorry. Her apology was sincere, but Grant was unmoved. Are you done? If there's nothing else, I have to go. He turned and walked away without looking back. Julia watched his retreating figure, her expression complicated. The days passed. Autumn gave way to winter. New York saw its first major snowfall of the year, and the graduate school entrance exams came to a close. As Grant walked out of the testing center, he immediately saw his father waving at him. Grant, you're finally done. Let's go. Dad's taking you out for a feast. David was grinning from ear to ear, as happy as if Grant had already been accepted. Dad, why are you so excited? I just finished the test. I have no idea how I did, Grant said with a laugh. Now that it's over, don't think about it. You worked hard. That's what matters. Besides, if not this time, there's always next time, David said, pulling Grant along. The most important thing right now is to celebrate with your old man and relax. He had seen how hard Grant had been studying these past few months and felt for him. They went to a nice restaurant. As they ate and chatted, the atmosphere was warm and happy. Mr. Miller, someone called out. Grant looked up. It was Ashley Davis, and standing next to her was a beautiful woman, Chloe. His eyes met Chloe's. She was wearing a red dress, her face as striking as ever, though she seemed to have slimmed down. It made her look more mature, more poised. She had the air of a CEO. She'd changed quite a bit in the few months since he'd last seen her. Ashley jogged over, bubbling with energy. Mr. Miller, you just finished your exams, right? I hope you get into your dream school. Grant smiled. Thanks, Ashley. Mr. Miller, there are no other tables available. Is it okay if we join you? She asked. Grant nodded. Of course. He scooted over to sit next to his father, leaving the opposite side for the two sisters. Chloe politely introduced herself. Mr. Miller, it's nice to see you again. I'm Chloe Davis. David recognized her immediately and chuckled. I know who you are. Grant has told me about you. Chloe's gaze flickered to Grant, and she asked playfully, "Oh, what did he say? I hope he wasn't complaining about my motorcycle driving." Her wit made both Grant and his father laugh. Though Chloe was trying to be discreet, David noticed the way she kept stealing glances at Grant. As a man of experience, he knew exactly what that meant. He started sizing her up. The girl was tall, had a healthy glow, and was very pretty. Her appearance passed muster. Now, for the other details. "Chloe, what do you do for work?" David asked with a friendly smile. "I'm starting my own business, an import-export company," she replied. "A young entrepreneur, very impressive," David said. "How's the company doing?" "It's growing steadily. Business has been increasing every month. By next year, operations should be stable." David nodded, satisfied. "Excellent, excellent. You have a very bright future." Chloe smiled modestly. "You're too kind. Do you have a boyfriend?" David asked with a twinkle in his eye. "If not, I could introduce you to someone." Chloe instinctively glanced at Grant, her ears turning a little red. "Thank you for the kind offer, sir, but I already have someone I like." "Oh, what a shame," David said meaningfully. "I was hoping to set you up with my Grant." Grant, who was taking a sip of water, nearly choked. "Dad, what are you talking about?" He shot his father a look. David just smiled. "Chloe, what do you think of our Grant here?" "He's very nice," Chloe said, her ears turning an even deeper shade of red. The oblivious Grant cut in. "My dad just loves playing matchmaker. Don't mind him." David gave Chloe a sympathetic look. Judging by his son's reaction, this was a case of one-sided affection. After dinner, they parted ways. On the way home, Ashley couldn't help but ask, "Chloe, do you have a crush on Mr. Miller?" "No. Don't be ridiculous," Chloe denied it. Ashley pouted. "Don't lie to me. I saw you. You kept sneaking looks at him during dinner, and your ears were red. And that gift a client gave you. You were too chicken to give it to him yourself, so you made me do it. You obviously like him. Why won't you admit it? You're such a coward." Chloe realized she hadn't been as subtle as she thought. A bitter smile touched her lips. If it was that obvious and Grant hadn't noticed, it meant one of two things. He was genuinely clueless, or he wasn't interested and was pretending not to know. "He's not interested in me," she said quietly. "Don't mention this to anyone, especially not to him. I don't want to make things awkward." Seeing her so timid, Ashley tried to encourage her. "Chloe, if you like him, you should go for it. What are you afraid of? You're a great catch. You're beautiful. How will you know if you don't even try?" Chloe shook her head. "I'm not good enough for him. He's so accomplished, and he's going to be a graduate student. He'll meet someone much better. Who cares about all that? You like him. That's it," Ashley said, not understanding her sister's hesitation. "You haven't even tried. Maybe Mr. Miller doesn't care about those things." Chloe pursed her lips and said nothing more. Time flew by. The exam scores were released, and Grant was accepted with high marks into a prestigious local university's foreign language program. He stood at the university gates, watching the new students come and go, feeling a sense of dreamlike unreality. "Grant, what are you spacing out for?" His father's voice brought him back to the present. He smiled, a wave of emotion washing over him. "Dad, I actually got in. I'm really a graduate student. This isn't a dream, is it?" He pinched his arm. It hurt. It was real. He had really been reborn, had really gotten into graduate school, fulfilling a dream from his past life. Grant's eyes grew misty. Seeing his son on the verge of tears, David panicked. "What's wrong? Why are you crying? This is a happy day." Grant wiped his eyes, his voice choked with emotion. "Dad, these are happy tears. I just can't believe I actually made it." After 40 years, he had actually done it. David, unaware of his son's past, was nonplussed. "My Grant has always been a top student. Getting into grad school was a sure thing." He beamed with pride. Grant had always been a source of pride for him, sailing through school without needing tutors and getting into a top-tier university. Now he was a graduate student. Their family had plenty of college grads, but not many with master's degrees. He could hold his head even higher at family gatherings. "You get your brains from your mother," David said, never shy about praising his son. Grant felt a little embarrassed. "All right, Dad, that's enough. Let's go in." "Okay." They went inside and completed the registration. It was getting late, so they had dinner together before David headed home. That evening, Grant got to know his new roommates. They all decided to go out for dinner and walk around the area. The mall near the campus was packed with new students, buzzing with energy. Grant and his 3 roommates went to a bubble tea shop. After ordering, they stood in the hallway, chatting. Suddenly, someone rushed past, snatched the phone right out of Grant's hand, and was gone in a flash. It took Grant a second to process what had happened. "Hey, stop, thief!" he yelled, taking off after him. His roommates joined the chase, but the mall was too crowded, and the thief vanished in the throng. We should call the cops, one of his roommates suggested, panting. Call the police, then ask them all for security footage. It was the only thing to do. Grant was about to borrow his roommate's phone when a familiar voice sounded from above. Looking for this? He looked up into a pair of beautiful eyes. Chloe? Grant was surprised and confused. How do you have my phone? Did you get it back for me? But how? Chloe cut him off with a smile. I saw you when you walked into the mall. I didn't want to interrupt you and your friends. Then I saw your phone get snatched, so I went and got it back. Wow, thank you so much, Grant said, taking his phone, overwhelmed with gratitude. Chloe said, check and make sure everything's there. Grant quickly checked his phone and wallet. Everything was there. Nothing's missing. Chloe, seriously, thank you. Chloe smiled, brushing it off. Don't mention it. I won't keep you from your friends. See you around. She gave a polite nod to his roommates and walked away. After she left, his roommate, a guy named Leo, gave him a sly grin. Dude, who was that? Is she after you? Grant shook his head. No, we're just friends. Leo wasn't convinced. The way she looks at you is not just friends, man. She's definitely into you. You're imagining things. It's not like that, Grant insisted. Leo stroked his chin thoughtfully. Well, friends can become girlfriends. She's tall, gorgeous, and seems super polite. You two look good together. And trust me, she likes you. You really don't feel anything for her. Grant laughed. How can you tell she likes me? We're just friends. Leo sighed dramatically. Looks like that beauty needs to make a move, he thought. This guy's as dense as a brick. Grant had a light class scheduled the next day and decided to go for a walk. Just as he stepped off campus, he got a call from Chloe. He was a little surprised. He couldn't remember her ever calling him before. He answered. Her warm voice came through the phone. Grant, are you free tomorrow? I was hoping you could help me with something. I don't have class tomorrow afternoon. What's up? I have a meeting with a client from Spain tomorrow, and I need a translator, Chloe said with a laugh. I was wondering if you could help me out. I'll pay you the standard market rate. Grant answered without hesitation. Of course. It's no big deal. You don't have to pay me. Just pick me up from campus tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you then. Chloe had arranged to meet the client at a coffee shop. Just like before, she arrived on her motorcycle to pick him up. Grant teased her. Shouldn't a CEO like you be driving a car? It would suit your status better. My dad told me you get carsick, Chloe said, handing him a helmet, her dark eyes fixed on his. A motorcycle should be more comfortable for you. Grant was surprised. He hadn't realized she knew about his motion sickness. You're pretty thoughtful, he commented, taking the helmet. It was a new one, with a more complicated strap design that he fumbled with. Let me help. Chloe stepped closer. As she adjusted the strap, her fingers brushed against his cheek, a light, almost caressing touch. Grant felt a warmth creep up his neck and pursed his lips, a little flustered. He looked up and met her gaze. She had been watching him the whole time. The moment their eyes met, she looked away, the tips of her ears turning a faint pink. Suddenly, Leo's words echoed in his mind. Could it be true? Does Chloe actually like me? No, probably not. If she did, she would have said something. He was just overthinking it. There, it's on, Chloe said softly. She put on her own helmet and swung her leg over the motorcycle. Grant expertly settled in behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. I'm on. Let's go. With a roar, the motorcycle took off. At the coffee shop, as they waited, Grant felt a flutter of nerves. It was his first time doing simultaneous interpretation. What if I mess up? You won't get mad, will you? Chloe saw his anxiety and reassured him. Of course not. Just pretend you're chatting with any other foreigner. Besides, I trust you. You've got this. Her encouragement eased his nerves. Soon, the client arrived. After a few pleasantries, they got down to business. Grant translated the client's words for Chloe, who responded quickly, and he would then translate her response back into Spanish. It was a little rocky at first, but he quickly found his rhythm, his translations becoming almost instantaneous. An hour and a half later, the deal was done. Chloe and the client signed a contract. The client looked at Grant with admiration and praised him in Spanish. Grant humbly replied that he was flattering him. The client then asked if Grant would consider becoming his personal translator. What's he saying? Chloe asked. He's asking me to be his translator, trying to poach her interpreter right in front of her. Chloe's heart tightened. Are you going to say yes? Of course not. I'm still a student, Grant said, then politely declined the offer in fluent Spanish. Afterward, the three of them said their goodbyes. On the way back to campus, Chloe praised him again. Grant, you were amazing. Grant smiled. You were pretty amazing yourself. You handled that negotiation like a pro. You think so? A wide smile spread across Chloe's face. Without thinking, Grant said totally. Beautiful and badass. And do you like that? The question almost escaped Chloe's lips. She swallowed it back down, afraid it was too soon. Patience, she told herself. By the way, I might need your help again. Chloe said. Next week, I have a client coming in from the Netherlands. He wants to experience some of the culture and food in Savannah, so we're meeting there. If you're free, could you be my translator again? Sure. Next week is the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday, so I'm free, Grant agreed. Chloe's smile deepened. Great. I'll book your flight. The motorcycle stopped in front of the university. Grant got off and handed her the helmet. See you next week, then. Bye. Bye. Chloe watched him until he disappeared from sight. On the ride home, even the wind felt sweet. The thought of spending a few days alone with him next week filled her with anticipation. That night, Grant was lying in bed scrolling through his phone when he got a notification from his bank. A deposit of $10,000. A moment later, a message from Chloe came through. Did you get the transfer? Grant was so shocked he immediately called her. Why did you send me so much money? He demanded. We agreed you didn't have to pay me. I'm sending it back right now. Chloe hadn't expected him to call. Hearing his voice, she couldn't help but smile. Even family keeps accounts straight. I hired you as a translator. Of course I can't take advantage of you. $10,000 an hour is the standard rate for high-level interpretation. I didn't overpay you. That was the rate for top-tier professionals. Grant was well aware of his own skill level. No, that's way too much. I can't accept it. Then consider it payment for the business trip with me next week. Okay? Chloe was not taking the money back. She made a mental note to convert next week's payment into a gift he couldn't refuse. Grant thought about it and agreed. Fine. This counts as payment for both jobs. But you can't send me any more money. Chloe chuckled softly. Okay. There was something about her laugh that Grant found surprisingly pleasant. Her voice was nice, a perfect match for her face. Where did that thought come from? He shook his head, clearing the random thoughts. Okay, I'm hanging up. Bye. Good night. Sweet dreams. A few days before the holiday break, Grant got a call from his father asking when he'd be home. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. I'm not coming home for the holiday. I'm going to Savannah. To Savannah? For vacation. Sort of. Chloe has a meeting with a foreign client there, and she hired me as her translator. David's voice rose an octave. You're going on a trip alone with her? It's work, Dad, Grant said, trying to head off any misunderstandings. Are you too? As expected, his father had jumped to conclusions. Grant explained patiently, No, Dad, don't get the wrong idea. It's really just for work. After their last meeting, David had done some digging on Chloe. He learned a lot. She came from a large family and didn't have a college degree, which were initial drawbacks. But then he found out she'd skipped college to support her family, was incredibly filial without being a pushover, had a strong sense of self, and kept her siblings in line. Her family seemed warm and close-knit. She was also ambitious, had started her own company, and was involved in various charities. Her character was impeccable. Most importantly, her personal life was squeaky clean. She'd apparently never even been in a serious relationship. For a beautiful, successful young woman to resist all the inevitable attention was truly impressive. In short, she was miles better than Julia. David was quite pleased with her. If she and Grant got together, he would be thrilled. All right, Dad's not getting any wrong ideas. With that, David hung up. Grant stared at his phone. That was it. He'd expected more questions, more warnings. He lay on his bed, bored, and sent Chloe a text, joking around. My dad knows I'm going to Savannah with you, and he wasn't worried at all. He trusts you that much. What did you do? Put a spell on him. She replied almost instantly. Maybe I just look like a good person. What if you're secretly a bad person and you're planning to sell me? This time there was a pause. After about 30 seconds, she replied, You're right. Are you still brave enough to come with me? If I'm a human trafficker, you're doomed. Grant laughed and typed back. A successful business owner like you wouldn't risk her career just to sell me. Haha. Chloe was still at the office, working late. When her phone lit up, a smile spread across her face. She put down her work to reply. Grant, I'd sell myself before I'd ever sell you. Reading that message, Grant felt a strange flutter in his chest. It sounded a lot like a love confession. He was probably misinterpreting it. It was getting late. Grant decided to end the conversation, sent a good night, and went to sleep. The next day, as soon as Grant finished washing up, he got a call from Chloe. She was waiting for him at the university gate. Okay, I'll be right down. He grabbed his suitcase and left the dorm. Chloe was tall and slender, with a natural beauty that stood out even in a simple white t-shirt and black pants. Grant spotted her immediately. Chloe, he called out, wheeling his suitcase over to her. She smiled. Let's go. Knowing he got airsick, Chloe gave him some medicine she'd had a friend bring back from overseas. This stuff works really well. You won't feel sick at all. Really? Thanks. Grant took it with some water. The plane took off and landed. Chloe took Grant to their hotel, and after they settled in, they went out for dinner. The restaurant she'd chosen was on a bustling street. Savannah during a holiday weekend was packed, the streets a sea of people. Fearing they'd get separated, Chloe turned and took his hand, leaning in close to his ear to speak. It's too crowded. I'll hold on to you. Her palm was warm. As she spoke, her warm breath tickled his ear. Grant's face grew hot. Okay. After dinner, the sky had darkened. It was getting late, so they headed back to the hotel. The next morning, Chloe took him to meet the client at the agreed-upon time and place. With the experience from last time, Grant's performance was even better. Chloe and the client successfully signed the contract. After seeing the client off, Chloe looked down at Grant, her eyes filled with a gentle warmth. Grant, you're getting better and better at this. I wouldn't be surprised to see you at the UN one day. Grant blushed at the praise. Don't exaggerate, but her words sparked a flicker of hope in his heart. The ultimate dream for any interpreter was to work on the UN stage, the highest validation of one's skill. In his past life, he had been tied down by family. This time, maybe he had a chance. He would have to work even harder. I believe you can do it, Chloe said with a smile. You'll definitely achieve your dream. Grant was surprised. How did you know going to the UN was my dream? Chloe raised an eyebrow. You're always liking videos about it on social media. I noticed. You're very observant, Grant remarked. It wasn't observance. It was devotion. It was paying attention to every little thing about him. Chloe just smiled, hiding her feelings deep inside. For the next few days, Chloe didn't rush them back to New York. Instead, they explored Savannah, visiting historical sites and enjoying the local cuisine. As evening fell, they found themselves at a quiet cocktail lounge. Go easy on that. We have to fly back tomorrow. You don't want to wake up with a headache, Chloe advised gently. My tolerance is great, Grant boasted. But you're drinking a Long Island iced tea, Chloe said with a frown, reaching for his glass. Just have a few sips. You'll get drunk. I'm not drunk. Grant's eyes were clear, his speech steady. He certainly didn't seem intoxicated. Maybe he really could hold his liquor. Chloe stopped trying to take his drink. He was with her, so he would be safe even if he did get drunk. They drank and talked, and before they knew it, it was 9 o'clock. Time to head back. Grant had seemed fine in the lounge, but the moment he got into the cab, the potent cocktail hit him. His head started to spin. In the end, Chloe had to practically carry him back to his hotel room. How are you feeling? Chloe asked, concerned, seeing his flushed face. Hang in there. I'll go downstairs and get you something to help with the hangover. Don't go. Grant grabbed her hand. Drunk as he was, he had a surprising amount of strength. He pulled, and Chloe stumbled, falling onto him on the bed. He tilted her chin up, his eyes hazy. You have very sexy lips. I wonder what they feel like to kiss. Grant, you're drunk. Chloe's face was on fire. She tried to push herself up, but Grant held her fast. Chloe, do you like me? The tips of her ears burned. Tell me, do you like me? Grant caressed her face. Leo said you like me. Is it true? Chloe's ears were practically glowing. Yes, she whispered. I like you. She looked at him, her beautiful eyes seeming to pull him in. The alcohol ignited a secret desire within him. I kind of like you too, he murmured. He leaned in slowly and kissed her. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the room, illuminating the pile of clothes discarded on the floor, a testament to the previous night's abandon. Grant slowly woke up. The first thing he saw was a beautiful face close to his. Chloe was looking at him with a gentle, smiling gaze. Grant, you're awake. The memories of the night before came rushing back. Grant was horrified. He had slept with Chloe. He was screwed. He sat up, his throat suddenly tight. He didn't know what to say. After a long moment, he finally managed. I'll take responsibility. Chloe blinked. What did you say? What was done was done. Chloe decided to lay her cards on the table. She took Grant's hand, her expression serious. Grant, I like you. Grant was stunned. He had been so drunk, he only vaguely remembered initiating things. He had no memory of her confession from the night before. You, like me? Yes, I like you. Chloe cupped his face, her beautiful eyes fixed on his. Actually, I like you since the first moment I saw you. Grant tried to recall. You mean, the first time I went to your house? Chloe blushed and nodded. Yes. My heart was beating so fast. I remember thinking, what do I have to do to make you my husband? Grant was speechless. She was a hell of an actress. He hadn't suspected a thing. Look, even though you like me, I don't think I like you back yet, he said, clearing his throat. Last night was my fault, but I'm willing to be responsible if you don't mind. A flicker of disappointment crossed Chloe's face, but she quickly recovered. It's okay if you don't like me now, but at least give me a chance. What do you mean? Let me pursue you, she said, her tone completely serious. Grant didn't dislike her. In fact, he felt a certain fondness for her. He wasn't made of stone. He had noticed her kindness and thoughtfulness. After a moment's thought, he agreed. Okay, you can try, but I can't promise I'll be won over. Chloe's eyes lit up, and a smile spread across her face. Grant, I'll do my best. Ahem, we should probably get up, or we'll miss our flight, Grant said softly. Chloe nodded. Okay, but she didn't move, her eyes still locked on his, brimming with an affection that was impossible to miss. Grant felt a little awkward under her intense gaze. I need to get dressed. They had been intimate, but they weren't a couple. He couldn't bring himself to dress in front of her. Chloe understood. She slipped out of bed and quickly put on her clothes. I'll wait for you next door. Text me when you're ready. Their flight landed in New York. Chloe drove Grant back to the university. Their relationship had taken a huge leap forward, and Grant felt a little awkward around her. Well, I'll head in, he said. Chloe looked at him, her gaze incredibly gentle. Okay, get some rest. I'll come find you tomorrow. Grant asked without thinking why. Chloe let out a soft laugh. I'm pursuing you now. I'm going to ask you out on a date, of course. If you're willing, I'd like to take you to Disneyland. Since he had agreed to give her a chance, Grant saw no reason to refuse. They needed to spend more time together to get to know each other better. He nodded. Okay, see you tomorrow then. Bye. He waved and dragged his suitcase onto campus. Chloe watched him go, not turning away until he was completely out of sight. The trip to Savannah had brought them much closer, and now she had the chance to officially win him over. And he didn't seem to dislike her. Her confidence soared. On the way home, Chloe couldn't stop smiling. Back in his dorm room, Grant had just laid down when his father called. Grant, you back at school? David's booming voice came through the phone. Yeah, I'm already in bed. How was Savannah? David asked. With your motion sickness, did that Chloe girl take good care of you? Grant's mind flashed back to the previous night. The memories were fragmented, but all of them were undeniably steamy. Chloe's great, Grant found himself saying. She took really good care of me. She even got me some special medicine for my motion sickness from a friend overseas. It worked so well I didn't even need my own stuff. I had a really good time in Savannah. She's a really nice person. David chuckled. I think she's a great girl, too. She'd make a wonderful daughter-in-law. It took Grant a second to process that. His face flushed. Dad, don't say things like that. Grant, be honest with me. Do you have feelings for her? Dad, stop asking these things, Grant said, flustered. I'm hanging up now. On the other end of the line, David stared at the disconnected call and smiled knowingly. He was no fool. He could tell from Grant's tone that his attitude toward Chloe had changed. It looked like something was definitely happening. Grant had just hung up with his father when his phone rang again. It was Chloe. Not wanting to disturb his roommates, he stepped out into the hallway. They ended up talking for nearly an hour, the conversation flowing effortlessly, as if they had endless things to say. Oh, I almost forgot. I have a gift for you. I'll give it to you when we meet tomorrow, Chloe said, her voice soft. What is it? Grant asked, curious. You'll see tomorrow, she said mysteriously. I think you'll like it. He couldn't help but feel a flicker of anticipation. After hanging up, Grant went back into his room. His roommate, Leo, immediately pounced. Dude, are you seeing someone? Grant blinked. No. Leo didn't believe him. You've never been one for long phone calls. And you were smiling the whole time. You weren't talking to your girlfriend? Grant touched his face. Was I? Was it that gorgeous woman from the other day? Chloe. Leo's eyes gleamed. Man, you hit the jackpot. She's beautiful, has a great figure, and a killer vibe. We're not dating yet, Grant said without thinking. So you're in the talking stage? Leo's eyes got even wider. Bro, don't forget your friends when you make it big. Does she have a sister or something? Hook a brother up. She must be great if she's related to her. He was actually right. Chloe did have a sister, and she was very nice. Grant sighed, amused. We haven't even figured things out yet. If we do become a couple, I'll introduce you. Deal. Leo threw an arm around his shoulder. That's my boy. You're a true friend. It's a deal. The next day, Grant met Chloe for their date. When he walked out of the university gates, he saw her leaning against her motorcycle, dressed in a leather jacket and pants. She looked incredibly cool and tough. Your style is a little different today, Grant commented, looking her over. Chloe cleared her throat. Do you like it? Grant nodded. Yeah, fierce and beautiful. Hearing his praise, a smile spread across her face. We should get going. She helped him with his helmet, her dark eyes fixed on him, as if she could never get enough of looking at him. Grant felt himself blush. Stop staring at me. You're handsome, Chloe said, her voice like honey. You're the best-looking guy I've ever seen. Grant snorted. You're just flattering me. I'm sure you've had plenty of guys chasing you. You're telling me none of them were better looking than me. Chloe placed her hands on his shoulders, her expression completely serious. In my eyes, you're the best. Grant's face grew warm. We should go. Okay. Chloe swung her leg over the bike. Hold on to my waist. Grant wrapped his arms around her, pressing his cheek against her back, a smile playing on his lips. It was the first day after the holiday, so Disneyland wasn't too crowded. But Grant never expected to run into Julia and Ethan there. "Let's go over there," he murmured to Chloe. But Ethan had already spotted him. "Grant, don't you even say hello when you see us? What's the rush?" Grant's expression turned cold. "I don't think we're that close." Ethan draped his arm around Julia, his eyes landing on the woman beside Grant. "Is this your new girlfriend? You move fast. Just broke up with Julia, and you've already found a replacement. I'm jealous." The words were dripping with venom, subtly implying Grant was a player. Grant almost laughed out loud. This guy was unbelievable. In his past life, Ethan had an affair with his wife. This time, Grant had willingly stepped aside, yet Ethan was still filled with malice. Just as Grant was about to retort, Chloe spoke up first. "I'm actually pursuing him, but he's a tough one to catch. I've been trying for months, and he still hasn't said yes." She glanced at Ethan, a faint smile on her lips. A great man like Grant has a lot of admirers, so of course he's hard to get. Unlike some people who are so pathetic they have to cling to one crooked tree and then spend all their time imagining everyone wants to steal it. It's quite sad, really. Her words hit their mark. Julia and Ethan's faces turned ugly. Grant couldn't help but chuckle. He hadn't realized Chloe could be so sharp. He looked at her and gave her a subtle thumbs up. Chloe winked back. Their silent, easy interaction only made Julia and Ethan look more sour. "Grant, you should be careful who you date," Julia said coldly. "Beautiful women are the most dangerous. Be careful you don't get taken for everything you have." Grant laughed, his voice laced with sarcasm. "You have to use your heart to see if someone is sincere, not your eyes. After all, you can know a person for decades and still not know whether there's a human being or a monster hiding under their skin." Julia's expression faltered. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. "Let's go," Grant said quietly to Chloe. They turned and walked in the other direction. Julia couldn't help but watch him go. Since leaving her, he seemed to be thriving. He'd even gotten into graduate school. "Are you still thinking about him?" Ethan's face hardened instantly. "Julia, let's get one thing straight. You're married to me." Julia tore her gaze away from Grant's back. "I'm not. Don't be ridiculous. I'm telling you, you're my wife now. Your heart and your eyes should only have room for me." Ethan grabbed her shoulders, his voice rising to a shout, heedless of the people around them. "If you dare to think about another man, I swear, we are going to have a problem." It was starting again. A wave of irritation washed over Julia. Since they'd gotten married, Ethan had become a different person. The gentle, soft-spoken man from their courtship was gone. Now, if anything displeased him, he would fly into a rage. Last week, she'd taken him to a dinner with her boss. He'd thrown a fit because she'd exchanged a few extra words with a male waiter, yelling at her in front of everyone and humiliating her completely. "Can you please try to control your temper?" she said, exasperated. "Stop being so irrational, and don't raise your voice in public. It's uncivilized." Ethan reacted as if she'd stepped on his tail. "So now you're looking down on me, is that it? You regret marrying me because I'm not some native New Yorker with a trust fund." Every argument, no matter the topic, always came back to this. It was like talking to a brick wall. She didn't understand. In her last life, she'd been with Grant, a man she didn't love, yet their life had been peaceful and harmonious. They almost never fought. This time, she had gotten her wish and married Ethan, but her life was nothing like she'd imagined. In fact, she had been happier in her past life. At home, Ethan only cared about money and did nothing else. And still, he was never satisfied, always complaining that she wasn't good enough to him. Sometimes, she even missed her old life. All she had to do was work. Grant took care of everything else at home. She never had to worry about a thing. "Why aren't you saying anything? Are you thinking about Grant right now?" Ethan seized her shoulders again, his voice a roar that made passers-by stare. Julia felt a hot flush of shame. She turned and walked away. "You're being too emotional. Let's not do this today. Let's just go home." "Julia!" Ethan yelled, chasing after her. The afternoon sun grew intensely hot. Chloe found a restaurant for them to rest in, ordering Grant's favorite dessert and a cold fruit tea. "How are you feeling? Are you okay? If you feel sick at all, you have to tell me," Chloe said, worried about him getting heat stroke. Being watched over with such care, Grant felt a warmth spread through his chest. He shook his head. "I feel fine. Nothing's wrong." "Good." Chloe relaxed. Their order arrived. Chloe put a straw in his drink and handed it to him. "See what you think." Grant took a sip. "This is really good." He then tried the tiramisu and looked up at her, delighted. "This place has amazing tiramisu. You want to try some?" Chloe looked at him and opened her mouth slightly. "Feed me." Ever since they had crossed that line, Chloe had become bolder, no longer hiding her affection. Her direct gaze often made him blush. Grant didn't refuse. He scooped up a spoonful and fed it to her. It is good, Chloe said after swallowing. Her eyes then drifted to the corner of his mouth, where a speck of white cream lingered. She reached up and wiped it away, her soft fingertip brushing against his lips, sending a tiny jolt through him. Grant's ears turned red, and he looked away, flustered. The atmosphere between them shifted, growing thick with a sweet, unspoken intimacy. Remember that surprise I mentioned? Chloe asked with a smile. What is it? Grant asked, his curiosity piqued. Chloe took a small gift box from her pocket and placed it in his palm. Open it. Grant opened the box. Inside, a watch lay nestled in velvet. His eyes widened in surprise. Isn't this the one I saw at the mall? It had been too expensive, so he hadn't bought it. He couldn't believe she had secretly gone back for it. Do you like it? Let me put it on for you. Chloe started to take it out. No, I can't, he said quickly. It's too expensive. I'm pursuing you. It's normal for me to give you gifts. Unless. Chloe's face fell, her expression crestfallen. You don't want to give me a chance, so you're rejecting my gift. That's not what I meant, Grant said immediately. Then that means you'll accept it. Before he could protest further, Chloe deftly fastened the watch onto his wrist. She looked at it with admiration. It looks so good on you. At this point, Grant had no choice but to accept it. A smile crept onto his face. Thank you, Chloe. Chloe reached out and gently touched his cheek. You're welcome. Evening came. A trip to Disneyland wouldn't be complete without seeing the fireworks. Chloe found a good viewing spot for them. Soon, the show began. With a series of thunderous booms, a cascade of brilliant colors exploded across the night sky. It's beautiful, Grant exclaimed, grabbing Chloe's arm, his eyes shining brighter than the fireworks themselves. Want to take a picture together? Chloe asked, looking up at him, her eyes full of a soft, smiling light. Grant nodded. Yeah, okay. Chloe took out her phone, aimed the camera at them, with the spectacular fireworks as their backdrop. They both broke into wide, happy smiles. Click. The moment was captured. That came out pretty good, Grant said happily. He turned his head, and his lips accidentally brushed against her forehead. Oh, sorry, His ears turned red. Chloe looked up, her beautiful eyes fixed on him. Grant, I like you. Will you be my boyfriend? He had been expecting it, but his heart still hammered in his chest. After a moment, he nodded solemnly. Okay, he had actually said yes. Chloe was overjoyed. She threw her arms around him, hugging him tightly. Grant, I'm so happy. You want to be even happier? Grant murmured. He lowered his head and kissed her. Chloe froze for a second, then melted into the kiss, her heart soaring. A new volley of fireworks erupted behind them, painting the sky in dazzling light. Grant and Chloe were officially together. Their relationship moved quickly. Within 3 months, they had met each other's families and were engaged. The wedding was set for the following summer. News of Grant's engagement eventually reached Julia. She was sitting in an auditorium, watching Grant on stage. It was a national-level English-speaking competition. Grant was delivering a speech on international environmental protection in a flawless British accent. He stood there, confident and composed, a shining figure that caught the light and held Julia's gaze. She was stunned. In her memory, Grant had always seemed vaguely tired, the light in his eyes dimmed. Their conversations had always revolved around groceries, bills, and household chores. The dull stay-at-home dad she had known was gone. Since leaving her, it was as if a withered tree had been returned to the sun, growing wild and lush. Julia couldn't tear her eyes away. Along with her surprise, a complex mix of emotions churned within her. The speech ended to thunderous applause. The judges began to tally their scores. After all the contestants had spoken, the results were announced. Grant had won first place. He took the stage again to give his acceptance speech. He thanked his professors and his family, and then he mentioned Chloe. At that moment, Chloe walked onto the stage and handed him a bouquet of white roses. They held hands, their loving gazes locked on each other. Watching from the audience, Julia felt an unexpected pang of bitterness. After the competition, as the crowd dispersed, Julia found herself walking, almost unconsciously, to Grant's old neighborhood. Soon, she saw a figure approaching. Their eyes met. Grant stopped, a slight frown on his face. What are you doing here? Julia looked at his familiar face. He seemed a bit They held hands, their loving gazes locked on each other. Watching from the audience, Julia felt an unexpected pang of bitterness. After the competition, as the crowd dispersed, Julia found herself walking, almost unconsciously, to Grant's old neighborhood. Soon, she saw a figure approaching. Their eyes met. Grant stopped, a slight frown on his face. What are you doing here? Julia looked at his familiar face. He seemed a bit thinner. Have you not been eating well? You've lost weight, she said, her voice laced with an old, instinctual concern. Her concern meant nothing to him. "Do you need something?" he asked coolly. "If not, you should leave. It's not appropriate for you to be hanging around my father's building." "Grant, do you hate me that much?" Julia's voice was laced with pain. "In our last life, I was wrong. I came here today to apologize to you in person." So, she had been reborn too. Grant was surprised for a second. Then his expression returned to one of polite indifference. "The past is the past. I don't want to waste time dwelling on it. If you truly feel any remorse, then the best thing you can do is stay out of my life." The Grant from her past life had always been gentle, never speaking to her with such coldness. The contrast between the two lifetimes was jarring, and Julia's eyes began to sting. But she knew she had no one to blame but herself. She was the one who let him go. "Okay, I won't bother you again," she said. She took one last, long look at him, then turned and walked away. Back at her own home, she found herself staring into space. The competition was being replayed on television, and Grant's deep, confident voice filled the room. She looked up, her eyes glued to the screen. Just then, Ethan walked in. He saw her staring at the television, at Grant, with a look of utter fascination. His face contorted with rage. He grabbed the nearest ashtray and hurled it at the screen. "Julia, are you in love with him now?" The screen shattered. Julia closed her eyes, exhausted. "Do you have to be so violent? Can we just talk about things?" Since their marriage, she had discovered Ethan was incredibly volatile, resorting to violence at the slightest provocation. Nearly every appliance in their home had been smashed at some point. Ethan rushed to her, screaming in her face. "Julia, don't forget who you're married to. How dare you still be obsessed with that man?" Julia frowned, looking at him with disgust. "Ethan, this behavior will only push me further away. Grant and I are over. I was just struck by how much he's changed. There was no need for you to fly into such a rage." But Ethan was relentless. He crossed his arms, sneering. "Huh, you think I believe that? The look in your eyes betrayed you." Julia sighed wearily. "Then what do you want? Our life is already a complete mess because of you. I want you to cut off all contact with him. No more seeing him, no more talking to him." Julia was silent for a moment. "I had no intention of contacting him again," she said slowly. "But you have to stop being so irrational. A marriage requires work and respect, not just your constant temper tantrums." Her words seemed to calm him slightly. "You'd better mean that," he grumbled, then stormed out of the room. Julia slumped onto the sofa, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. This was the husband she had chosen. She was reaping what she had sown. Grant finished his morning classes and walked cheerfully toward the university gates, where he was supposed to meet Chloe for lunch. Before he could reach the exit, a figure came charging toward him. Before Grant could react, his arm was seized in a vice-like grip. A man's furious roar echoed in his ears. "Grant Miller, you shameless homewrecker. How dare you seduce my wife?" The shout drew immediate attention. Passers-by stopped and stared. Grant, recognizing the man, wrenched his arm free, his face grim. "Ethan, what the hell are you talking about?" "I'm not talking nonsense. If you weren't seducing her, why would she be so cold to me? Why would she be staring at your picture all night?" Ethan was practically vibrating with rage. The past few weeks, Julia had been distant, even refusing to sleep in the same bed. Last night, he couldn't take it anymore and had burst in her room, only to find her gazing at a photo of Grant. The look on her face, he would never forget it. It was the look of a woman in love. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He pointed a trembling finger at Grant's face. "It was you. You've been seeing her behind my back. You're disgusting. A filthy homewrecker." Grant was well known on campus. The explosive accusation sent a ripple of murmurs through the crowd of students. Grant's face flushed with anger. "Ethan, I have nothing to do with Julia. Stop making things up. You still dare to deny it? You bastard, I'll kill you." Ethan raised his hand to strike him. Before the blow could land, his wrist was caught in a powerful grip. Chloe shoved his hand away and stood in front of Grant, her eyes cold as ice. "Grant is my fiancé. If you continue to slander him, you can expect a lawsuit. I've already called the police. They're on their way. As for whether my fiancé seduced your wife, or your wife simply decided she wanted something better, I think you know the answer to that yourself. If you cause any more trouble, you'll have to deal with me." She had been in the special forces, and her aura of calm, deadly authority was palpable. For a moment, Ethan was stunned into silence. But he quickly recovered, trying to turn Chloe against him. "Don't be fooled by this bastard, Grant. He's playing you. He's keeping you on the side while he goes after my wife. Why would I believe a lunatic like you over my own fiancé?" Chloe retorted coldly. Just then, Julia, having received a frantic call, rushed to the scene. She grabbed Ethan's arm, her voice furious. What are you doing? I told you, there is nothing going on between me and Grant. Even if there were, it would be my issue, not his. She looked at Grant, who was being shielded by Chloe, and her face filled with remorse. I'm so sorry. I can't control my husband. I'm sorry for the disturbance. I'll take him away now. She began to drag Ethan toward the gate, his mouth still spewing a stream of curses. Back at their apartment, Julia's anger finally erupted. What is wrong with you? Ethan's face was a mask of fury. What's wrong with me? You have the nerve to ask me that? Julia, I'm your husband. How could you fall in love with Grant? I won't allow it. I won't. He slapped her hard across the face. Julia's head snapped back, a sharp pain radiating through her cheek. Are you insane? He didn't stop. He raised his hand and slapped her again. Yes, I am insane. You drove me insane. Julia, you have no conscience. I love you with everything I have. And this is how you repay me? You have no heart. He raised his hand a third time. This time, Julia caught his wrist. A surge of rage, hot and final, shot through her. She had reached her limit. With all her strength, she slapped him back. Ethan was stunned for a second. Then he let out a roar and lunged at her like a wild animal. The once loving couple was now locked in a desperate, violent struggle. Julia, filled with a mix of fury and despair, grabbed a heavy vase from a nearby table and smashed it over Ethan's head. He collapsed, blood pouring from the wound. Neighbors, hearing the commotion, called the police. Julia was taken into custody. Ethan was rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. His injuries were severe. His family flew in from Denver, furious, and immediately filed for divorce and pressed charges against Julia. Although it had been a mutual fight, Ethan's injuries were far more serious. Julia was convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to 2 years in prison. The news of Julia's conviction reached Grant. He was surprised. In his past life, though she hadn't loved him, she had never been a violent person. They had barely even raised their voices to each other in 40 years. And she had loved Ethan to death, hadn't she? How could she have brought herself to attack him so brutally? He couldn't figure it out, and he didn't waste time trying. His wedding was just a month away. He was busy with Chloe, picking out tuxedos and dresses, taking engagement photos, and preparing for his final competitions. Time passed quickly. June arrived, and with it, their wedding day. They had chosen an outdoor venue, a beautiful lawn decorated like a fairy tale. Grant, in a crisp white tuxedo, walked with Chloe down the aisle. The officiant's voice rang out, strong and clear. Grant Miller, do you take Chloe Davis to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, to love and to cherish, till death do you part? Grant smiled, his voice clear and bright. I do. Chloe looked at Grant, a profoundly gentle smile on her face. She squeezed his hand, and under the watchful eyes of their friends and family, she said, I, Chloe Davis, take you, Grant Miller, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love and cherish you with all my heart, and to walk beside you through all the days of our lives. The guests erupted in applause. Grant and Chloe, their fingers intertwined, smiled at each other, their eyes filled with a deep and abiding love. The sunlight bathed the new couple, seeming to burn away all the shadows of the past. From this moment on, every second was a new beginning. Grant looked up at the sky, a deep, contented smile on his face. This time, he had found real happiness. Married life was simple, full, and happy. Before long, Chloe was pregnant. A year later, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. David and Chloe's parents took turns helping with the baby, so neither Grant nor Chloe had to put their careers on hold. In this life, Grant was no longer trapped by the demands of home and family. He continued his studies, graduated with honors, and achieved his lifelong dream of working at the United Nations as a simultaneous interpreter. This time, he had it all: love and a successful career. In prison, they had daily news access. Julia often saw him on television, a confident figure at important international events. After her release, she happened to see him in a park one day. He was sitting on a picnic blanket, holding a cherubic little girl in his lap. She couldn't help but call his name. Grant looked up and met her gaze, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. You're out. Julia gave a bitter smile. Yes, I'm out. Her eyes fell to the child in his arms. Is it your child? A son? He's adorable. She's a girl, Grant said quietly. A girl. Julia looked vaguely disappointed. In their last life, they'd had a son. Grant read her mind. Boy or girl, he said with a hint of irony, as long as they're not ungrateful. The words were a slap in the face. Julia's expression filled with guilt. Grant, in our last life, I was wrong. In the next life, In the next life, Grant's wife will still be me. Chloe walked up, intertwining her fingers with Grant's. She gave Julia a dismissive glance. You lost your chance a long time ago. Goodbye. The moment Chloe appeared, Grant's entire face lit up with a smile so tender it pierced Julia's heart. She managed another bitter smile, then finally turned and walked away, step by step. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the family of three. The future was bright and full of happiness.